to the final part of the Wheel of Life, Fun and Recreation. I've been meaning to do this in part of the Wheel of Life for such a long time. It was always a slightly tricky one to sort of feel because to fit in, but I'm really pleased that I've got Kelly Peffers here to chat about it. Who's a clinical psychologist and also a paranormal investigator, so it's going to be an exciting one. And Kelly actually did her dissertation on something really kind of quite unusual, very, very interesting. So before we get into fun and recreation, are you happy to talk about that little part of it?
Yeah, of course. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you
Right.
perfectly, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am doing another paper, which I'll explain in a minute, which is really, really fun. So last year I did a paper about social media and the effects on adults, and whether or not it affects like beliefs and mental health, and if there's anything that can actually oh my days, that social media can actually be attributed to. So yeah, it was very interesting. I did find at the end that it was very much that it was misinformation from social media that was the main cause of a lot of like mental health problems and stuff like that, and that was really quite cool at the end of it. Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Excellent. Must say hello to Moira and Pat, who have just joined in with us right now. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think people can, in a modern day and any time throughout life, have dismissed actually the importance of having fun and enjoyment in our life. And I know from a talk that I went to by a psychologist that they were talking to a Japanese person who basically did a 22-hour day, and he was kind of seen as like a model business person until he died of a massive heart attack at the age of 25. So it just shows that it's important to actually have that relaxation time. What have been your findings and what you've been taught as well in your psychology that has the importance to do with having that fun and that relaxation time or that excitement time?
Yeah, I think throughout last year's dissertation, I did find that a lot of problems that we do have is very much a social construct, where it doesn't actually exist. It's just like we're being courteous, or we're being like kind of overprotective or anxious about certain things that are going on. And sometimes like that anxiety can kind of hold you back. And my me myself, I do suffer with anxiety and PTSD and OCD, and yeah, and I'm autistic, so I do emphasize very much so with it all. And there are lots of things that kind of inhibit me to get on with my life. And like one of the things that does help me is paranormal investigating, because it's that sort of taking away that question of like, oh, what happens when we die sort of thing. It kind of strips it. I don't know the answer. I'm still interested, but at the same point, I'm not afraid of dying in the unknown, because how can you know something if you don't know? It's very interesting, and I think a lot of people is more like preconceived notions of what people think or how you think people are thinking, like the metacognition of it. And really.
Excellent. I must say hello as well, and thank you for that, to Sam, who's watching, Annette who's watching, Kojo who's watching, Lobby Lou,
Nice.
Jane, the wonderful Jane from Paranormal Voice Productions is watching. So lovely
Hi
to
guys.
have you all here. So when you've seen people have that bit of relaxation time, and people sort of around you, what sort of things have they done? And I wanted to bring into nature, because that's quite important as well. And I remember there was like a psychological test done at one point that 60 minutes strolling in nature reduces stress in the brain, and walking through nature also helps mental health. How do you find that?
Yeah, so interesting you say that. That's very similar to what I'm about to write a new paper on. And I'm going to be like talking about the paranormal because I'm so excited. I love the paranormal, but I'm actually looking into like religions and especially Wicca. I'm not Wiccan, but I am very interested in it and what it's all about. And I like the fact that it doesn't have like a deity, or like it doesn't have what's it called, like a dogma. Like it doesn't have that about it, and it's about the individual. And it's a bit, what I find really interesting is like with meditation and yoga, even though like yoga and meditation is like Buddhism and Hinduism, it's like that sort of like merged together. It doesn't matter if you're not part of that religion. And it's very similar with Wiccan. And it's that sort of non-dogmatic sort of religion that it becomes personal, and it's a deeply personal rooted sort of wellness. And it's very similar to like some CBT courses or wellness courses that I help with. And like the whole meditation and taking that step, going back to nature and taking that 5-minute breather, come off the phones, come off just technology down, and yeah, and you do just literally just take that breath and you just feel better for it, really.
Wonderful. I mean, I was hearing that even if you can just take 10 sort of deep breaths, that can sort of really help you sort of once on the hour. But I've also heard somebody say if you get stressed out, that it's important to take 100 breaths
Yeah.
and do it slowly as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
very similar to like if you have like a meltdown, or like with autism or ADHD or something like that. One of the main things you do in CBT to help people out is to go, right, take 5 deep breaths, stop yourself, now count 5 things that is around you that you can hear, then what you can see, and then what you can feel. And it literally just grounds yourself. So it's very similar practice to like Wiccan. And also when you go to paranormal investigating, like you have those who do protection circles and they ground themselves. It's very, very similar practice. But what's interesting is nobody actually knows that there is that correlation from religion and CBT, but it's more scientifically proven that some of these things work. And yeah, sorry, Paul, I did interrupt you there, but yeah,
no,
it's
it's
true.
fine.
It's cool.
Yeah. So do tell me about some of the things which are sort of in CBT, because I'm a neurolinguistic programming coach, master practitioner in NLP, and I know there is some differences. I mean, one of my coaches always used to say that NLP is a lot more. Hello, Cowabunga. About and Lynette as well. Hello, Lynette. Is more about thinking, and that the NLP is more about sort of feeling when you're doing things. That's kind of my find has been a little bit different with NLP. It goes kind of a slightly different direction. But if you sort of say about sort of CBT, some of the things that you were taught in it, because and how much is it in psychology? Because I know that there are some forms of psychology that are very much kind of like they really kind of don't like NLP. Why, I don't know, but it seems to be in the psychology realm, CBT is a lot more respected. So if you tell me a bit about that.
Well, CBT, I don't ask me the acronyms for it. It's getting late. My brain is spent. Well, CBT is basically changing your habits. So if you're going to think negatively, you're going to be negative. So rather than say you say a child is naughty, you'll talk to that child and tell them off, but you won't actually see like, oh, they may have done 5 or 6 really good things before then, but you never praised them for that. You just gave them the attention, the negative reinforcement rather than the positive. And basically it's trying to get yourself to like interact with those good things and go, well, actually there is good things happening. But with CBT, it goes in depth. It's a bit, I wouldn't say Freudian, as as much. I probably like. I'm quite a big fan of Bronfenbrenner. I don't know if you've heard about Bronfenbrenner. Basically, he looks and a bit like Piaget, where he looks at the whole thing of the someone growing up rather than just going, oh, well, that's because of your, that's why you like that. Yeah. But like with Bronfenbrenner, it kind of says about your social aspect and how you interact with those close to you, but also to those around you. And then you've got your environment, and then you've got like those that aren't quite linked to you, but like stuff like the government and the way people act, and it all kind of just piles on top of you, but at the center is yourself. And they, like, he shows it in like nesting, and there's also all my days, I can't think what he's called, but yeah, and some of the stuff with Bronfenbrenner is very, very interesting. But yeah, with CBT, it kind of, you very much go deep underneath to find out why is somebody doing that, which is my particular interest. I'm always asking why. But because human nature is so complex, there's such a range of approaches that exist, and it's not a one size fit all. It is the individual, and it is individualized for everybody. There you go, cognitive behavioral therapy. I do know that, but it's getting very late. Yeah, so it's basically adapting how somebody can. It's when you're doing it, you're so used to just kind of doing it, but when it comes to actually explaining it, you're like, oh yeah. But it's very good for those with like long-term ailments, or like especially with mental health and physical. Myself, I have fibromyalgia, and also I have mental problems, both like my autism and all my PTSD, and it can literally battle against each other. So they're both interlinked basically. And like with CBT, you'd be like, okay, they've had an accident and they can't move their body properly. What is that doing to their mental state? So you'd be like, okay, so how do we alleviate? Okay, we'll send them to physio, blah, blah, blah. Does that work? No. Okay, what's the root problem? And then you'll go, okay, what happened in their past? Why are they feeling this way? And it basically digs down and it goes, right, okay, so why were they thinking that in the first place? And how can we make that better? And then CBT then basically rewrites what's going on in your head and just makes it more positive, because as human beings we do focus on the negative. And like you'll notice with like news and media, if there's something that is really good or really happy, thank you, Mary. My other half just brought me a cup of tea. If something's really good, you'll find that it won't get as many likes or as many hits, or people won't share it as much because it's good. And then if there's something bad, like it will blow up, it will go viral. And it's just something that I found in my paper. And even if it's misinformation and it's completely not valid at all, like has no validity, nothing on it, and it will just spread, because we as humans kind of like negative things and bad things, because it kind of makes us feel a bit alive. It's a little bit like paranormal. We don't know about it, and it makes us question ourselves and think live. I have gone on a bit of a tangent, but but with CBT, it's basically just changing like the way that someone perceives the world. And like you can do it with it's basically self-care, which Wiccan teaches. And yeah, there's lots of correlations. And yeah, there you go. Sorry.
Good. No, it's absolutely fine. And I'll read out Moira's, and also I'll then put on the point you said. There's a couple more people have said some comments as well. So we should all remember all the good things we've done, but we tend to think about the rubbish stuff that we've done.
Yeah, very, yeah, definitely.
I have found what I've heard is that comes from when we were cavemen, cave women, cave, when we were in the cave basically living, and we would be on alert for the danger, and we'd be alert for like the hungry beast that would want to eat us. We'd have to be alert for where we had to get food. So I think that's why people can be on a high alert. That's what I've heard anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was what you were taught in psychology.
Yes, it's like kind of that. So it's like what's innate and what's not innate. Like what is natural. Well, you can't really say what's natural because who's to say what's natural? Everything's got to have learnt something or evolved from something. So you can't say it's natural. So
Yeah,
it's my philosophy coming out now.
that's
Like
always
you
good, a bit of
can't.
philosophy.
Yeah, you can't actually say anything is natural because
Hmm.
everything is natural and everything is not natural at the same time because everything has come from something else. It can't be the original, but the coding and the way that we've molded in per person or per item or per living thing, they've made it their own. So they are, but they're not natural, but they are. I hope that is a bit of a
I
um yeah.
sorry, Karen.
No, it's like it is very much like um it is very much that innate sort of animal instinct of like stay away from the snake, or it's the same with like being afraid of spiders and stuff. And like even though we no longer have to be afraid of some species of spiders, that is still carried within our DNA and like epigenetics and stuff. So if we see something, it turns that trigger back on, sort of thing. And yeah, it's yeah. And so people are still afraid of spiders, but it's that sort of CBT that goes on top of that to rewire our brains to the modern world that can kind of help someone not be afraid of spiders. But obviously, that is a very loose thing that may not work. That's not saying it will work, but yeah. What were you going to say, Paul?
No,
Sorry.
I was just going to say that one of the things that I've been taught as well, if say somebody has a bad accident and they love playing rugby and say that it's left them that they've got crutches or they have to be in a wheelchair, if the person then kind of then changes their self-image so that they're thinking to themselves, well, I can't go out, I can't enjoy rugby like I used to anymore, I can't do this, then they kind of their mental health shrinks right down, and also as well their immune system shrinks as well. Whereas when somebody actually thinks, I'm still me, I still love rugby, there's like wheelchair rugby you can do, I'm going to look into that, or I can still go to the rugby with my mates, that they kind of then have like a more positive attitude, and not because they've kept their identity as being the same person. And also as well their immune system gets better. So I've heard that before, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like even if you're not physically in it, you're still a part of something. So even just being a part of something can help. But then it could have the adverse effect where you could be in that situation and then long to be there, making it worse for yourself.
Yeah.
But especially when I had my accident when I broke my neck, I was like walking marathons, and I say walking, I never ran marathons, it was walking. But like I was doing marathons and I had 3 young children and I was very, very healthy. And to suddenly go through that and go, okay, you can no longer do this. And I couldn't play the guitar properly or my ukulele or the drums. And it like, because I was a musician before this all happened. So I was like, this was my livelihood. And then all of a sudden it was just completely taken from me. Luckily, I was already on the verge of kind of changing my whole outlook and what I wanted to do, but it still really sucked. And like now for a very long time, I didn't write anything, I didn't play anything, and it's taken nearly 5 years now to start picking things back up and start singing. And then obviously I had the death of one of my best friends,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
music with, so that kind of just it's all good. He says hello now and then, so that's all right. But yeah, it can sometimes have its catch 22. Like do you want to be part of it or do you not want to be part of it? Is it going to make you feel bad? Is it going to make you feel good? And I think it's down to the individual, like how that would happen. And what was that saying? I've had mental health issues for 26 years. PTSD, anxiety and depression. Yeah. High five. We'll be part of a club.
So what I'll also like to just get up Cowabungas here, then I'll also go on to, so neurologically we are wired towards the negative. And it's always good because I'm always kind of, I think that you don't have to get into the happiness trap and have like a painted smile, but there are things that you can do, such as exercise, that can help with depression and that. But Pat says, when I'm more active, I have a much better frame of mind. So has there been much research that you've gone into with like the sort of exercise? I mean, like serious exercise. I've heard like, you get lots of endorphins, happy brain chemicals when you do exercises. So some of maybe any studies that you've heard as well or been part
of? Well, there is a couple with some wellness programs that I've been working, like people I've been working with. And there is like kind of just the little things, appreciate the little things. Because like if you've had an accident or you can't move around very much, just going up and down the stairs, that's one hell of an achievement. Like it's like I found myself like to go up and down my stairs with a laundry basket was one of the greatest achievements in my entire life. And like I never thought I would do anything. And like they do say, like if you go into what's it called, those one floor houses, what are those? Oh, my lights.
Flats.
I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, it's on the plug, so it shouldn't be doing that. But where
Spooky.
I am, you never know.
Well, yes, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, just like doing little things, and it does help. Like going in a bungalow. Sorry, if you've got a physical problem, going in a bungalow, they do say if you just have steps, like it does help your endorphins and that sort of like, oh my god, I did it sort of thing. It's that achievement. Or like going down into the garden. They like we do say about doing gardening because you feel connected with the earth, and you also feel like you're doing something and you're nurturing something, and then you have that sense of achievement at the end, and it just feels a lot better. But yeah, there is some, like I haven't read too much on it, if I'm being totally honest, but I do know that in my personal experience, like yoga has helped me immensely. I had a secondary slip disc in my back. By doing yoga, I have kind of put it back into place. And if I didn't do yoga, I would have had to have a secondary operation to sort this disc up. But I feel better. And I think someone mentioned that just a minute ago, that they feel better when they're active. And that is, like you said, about endorphins and stuff like that. But as far as what I've read about, I don't know too much in depth by it, but it would be something I would be interested in like a later date, definitely.
Lynette says masonette, for the one.
Yeah, that's kind of like one
bungalows, isn't it? Bungalows, that's it.
Yeah, like bungalows or just flats or like something that's just one floor with no steps and stuff.
Sam says I've had EMDR treatment.
You're gonna have to elaborate on that. I'm not very good with acronyms. If you show me it and go this, I go, oh yeah. That's part of my autism there. I'll go off on a tangent. You're gonna have to explain that.
Did I say hello to you, Steve? And also hello, Joe. I hope that this day sort of finds you well. So, well, what might be quite nice at this point is, because it's so important, to have that sort of time, because in the wheel of life, it's important you have a work-life balance. So, a whole section that could be gone of it could make your road quite bumpy. Wheel of Life classic life coaching tool. So I mean, it might be quite nice if some people say some of the things that they really love doing or feel they should do to get themselves back into it. So I know that you love doing your paranormal investigation. What kind of things really sort of make you sing and well, I know you, you sing, but you know your soul sing, and you know what makes you really kind of like feel a great sense of relief and enjoyment after it, and the sort of physical effects that it has on you as well.
Um, so it's going to be quite cliche, but my kids and my partner, 100%. Like, I would not be here doing what I'm doing without them. Or I'm just going to write something down because else I will forget something.
That's
Sorry.
okay.
When another thought pops in, the other one pops out. So I'll write that down. And there's something, I just read something just a second ago whilst we're here. Yeah, so my personal experience, I find family is great. But you can't depend on them. You can't lean on them. They're not your crutch. They're nothing. That they are individual people, and yes, they will help you, but you can't depend on them. Obviously, you can depend on family, but you can't, like, that can't be your only thing. But I find myself, like, I love my chickens. I will sit there for absolutely just hours, just sitting in my garden, just watching my chickens. And like, it's one of the most calming and relaxing thing to watch. And you look at them and you're like, well, how can you, like, they just wander around and they've got no worries. And it's like, but why do humans worry? Why are we wired this way? But we're not. It's a social construct. It doesn't exist. So why are we, like, worried about it? And why can't we live more like chickens? In a bit of an overstretch, but like, you just watch them and it kind of calms you down. It's like watching dogs or cats and just sit and just watch. Like, that is something that I do, and I find kind of brings me down to earth. And it's like, well, why am I worried about it? If I die in the next 5 minutes, it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to make an impact. If I don't, and this is something that I learned from my own OCD, if I don't clean that side in 5 minutes, like, or if in my case, candles, I like moving candles. If I don't move that candle from one end to the other, no one's going to die. I'm not going to die. So why do I have to do it right now? And it's like, it's not the actual object itself that I'm interested in, it's me. And it's like, it's me going, right, this is how I'm going to be in control of my life, and I can do this, and this is me doing this, and no one can tell me otherwise. But you're like, but it's so meaningless moving a candle from one end to the other. And I'm putting myself in that stress and that environment that I don't need to be in that environment. And like, I still slip a lot, and I will, like, my other half is absolutely fantastic. She'll like, if she'll suddenly see me staring or doing something or getting into a habit and getting panicked, she'll just kind of say, don't be silly, Kelly. And because I'm very much a person, like, you have to be kind of blunt with me, because else I'll think you're meaning something completely different or miss the point completely. And yeah, I've lost my train of thought.
That's
But
good.
yeah,
But you loved your chicken. You love your chickens and
I
looking.
love my chickens, and I love my dog. I love my family, but I also love gardening. Like, I find that so relaxing. Apart from my chickens are always eating my veg, which annoys the hell out of me. Although it's quite amusing to watch the chickens still, and then they kind of kill, like, you know, that thing you just nurtured for months, and I'll start pinching the tomatoes or the carrots that you've grown. So you kind of get annoyed at that, but it's that sort of thing of nurturing something and just watching it. Like, it's like staring up in the sky, and then like, I don't know if anyone else saw the DART thing, the space satellite that went into the asteroid a couple of days ago. Myself and my partner, we watched it live. It was amazing. And the next day, after going to bed and waking up, I was sat in the back door and I was watching the chickens just potter around. And I looked at the floor, and it's the first time I've ever done this and gone, oh my God, I'm on a planet. Like, it just sank in that I'm this little tiny thing on a planet. And there's so many planets out there, but I'm on this planet. And it was this really weird moment where I was like, you silly moo, like, you've been on this planet all your life, like, why are you suddenly realizing you're on a planet? But it's that sort of getting back to nature and realizing where you are and how lucky, like, that there may be aliens, there may be other life out there, we don't know, but we are in such a lucky place to have life on this rock, which, like, it's just phenomenal. Like, but yeah, that was my random thing about satellites.
No, it's good. Chris Williams here. Jane is here. Different Jane. Jane had to disappear. Jane Mortimer. Chris, did I say Chris? I think I saw Charles. Did I see Charles here? If anybody I've missed, I really do apologise. So I'm just going to get some things that people like. So Joe Mack says meditation can be a great motivator.
Yes.
So you were talking a little bit about sort of meditation and in religion. Was there any sort of other findings between these sort of religions and that yeah?
There is actually, is it fMRI, where it's like an MRI, but it's more in depth, and there's actually been studies done while somebody is meditating inside the machine, and some of, like, I am fascinated when I see those scans and all your bits of brain light up. Beautiful. She do count. And, like, in part of the wellness courses, especially with those who have long-term mental or physical ailments, it is an absolute fantastic tool. And I think it's on like week 5 or 6 that you are taught certain parts of meditation. It's not your full-blown, like, Buddhism or like your Hindu practice is not full-blown, but it's that sort of visualization. It's very similar to what you do, Paul, when you go, envision yourself in a certain meadow, and it's very much that sort of, and like what you do, I think that's really important, because if you don't know yourself or get back to yourself, you're not going to know yourself. So I wholeheartedly, even though I've done all my clinical psychology and stuff, like, I think there's more to it, if I'm being honest. But it's there is studies that have shown, and there's equipment to show that meditation helps. And it's like, even like the monk who meditated for years and he didn't know he was dead or something. I may be overstretching there. I may have made that up.
Right.
I've read it somewhere.
No, I'm curious now. So he meditated and he didn't know he was dead, or is that was the story? Would you say?
Yeah, like he meditated and he lowered his heart rate or something for like a couple of years, and was in this meditative state for like 2 years, and they thought he was in a coma or he died.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
To
I'm curious now.
Go through it. But yeah, there's a couple little things really. But yeah, there are studies, and the more you look into it, the more that's really interesting, especially with like parapsychology and like stuff in that sense. And I think there's more to it. Like, yeah, especially, I think I was mentioning to you last time, I was looking into psychosis and spirituality, and that's something I'm still like researching at the moment. And I do think a lot of stuff is like religion can, I'm not religious, but I think it's a very big mask in some way to kind of stop people worrying what's going to happen in the future or after death. And in some sense, my way of not worrying about after death is the paranormal and my investigating. So you can say it's kind of religion, but it's not. It's like kind of controlling people, and I don't know if people will agree with me or completely disagree, but I don't think in the modern world religion is as prominent as some would like it to be, but that it does seem to be not phasing out, but a lot of people, like, science is taking over. It's not a new religion, science, it's the truth. And like, we've grown up with many religions and many stories, and I think if you've got a religion, fantastic. Like, I wish I could believe like that, but I can't. And yeah, but religion does have a very big pull, but again, that's a social construct. So is science. It's all, yeah.
I tend to find, I mean, I've known some people who are not religious at all, and they get their joy from nature and just seeing stuff. I also know people that are quite religious, and it's an awful lot to them, and it's really helped them and kept them going through times. I think that it's a little bit like a hammer. You can either use, whether you are religious or not, you can use that to build wonderful things, whatever it is, or you can smash it down. So it depends on the individual as well, I think, most definitely. So Moira says walking in nature helps me. We kind of sort of touched on this, like this one. Early medieval music makes me happy. So, well, I know that you from your music side of things, and absolutely amazing. What did music do for you? And I know you listen to a lot of music still now, but you were very, very heavily involved in music at one point. So
yeah. So at the moment, very similar to Pat, music's brilliant. Like, but when I was younger, I was very, very hard. It was very, very hard to understand people and people to understand me, because I could talk, but a lot of time I always knew I was different to other people. Hello, dogs. My dog's come to join me. And so I found, like, for a very long time, I kind of kept my mouth shut. And it wasn't until I was about 13, 14, and I was in music class, and I'd never sung, I'd never spoken out properly in public or anything like that. I'd always been quite quiet. And then I remember singing I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. Such a cool and emotional song, you know. And hello, dog. I'm not giving you cuddles now. And no cuddles. I'll hold your hand. There you go. And I remember closing my eyes and singing, and then like opening them again and just seeing the whole class kind of look at me with this like bewildered and open mouths, like going, what? Like the quiet kid is just sung. And I didn't realize, I thought they were all like about to make fun of me, but I didn't realize that I could sing. And so from that moment, I realized that people finally understood what was going on in me. So it was almost like, right, okay, they understand me, they can hear me. And so for many years, I found it was like the only way to go away. She's pining, bless her. Yeah, I found it was like the only way to express what I was thinking and what I was feeling. And I found with my music, it was a way to connect with people that I'd never done. There was one song in particular called Ghost that I wrote when I was, I think I must have been 16, 17. And I was doing it for just a GCSE, like A-level thing. And they had the camera, and it was one of the teachers. And it's very similar to another song that I've wrote, more one of the last songs called Morticia, which is about two people who've been married all their life and then they have to say goodbye, and them kind of having that, and the person who dies doesn't realize they're dead, and you just think that the relationship's rocky, and then all of a sudden there's this realization, and it was very similar along that lines. I remember singing it, and the teacher and the student that was next to her, when they lifted down the camera after I finished the song, they were in floods of tears, and I was like, oh my god, you've got what I was trying to say. You understood that this is a really bad thing and really sad. And it was that moment where I was like, oh, they understand me. I make sense. So for a very long time, I kind of thought that that was the only way that I could communicate with people. So I went down this big path for like 15 years of writing, and then it got to a point where then the dog does want limelight. She's so needy, my dog. But yeah, and then it got to a point where it wasn't for me anymore. It was because of the way, like, I realized that it was for other people. It was never bless you, Lily. Well, Nettie. Yeah, and it got to a point where I realized that it was for everybody else, to make them feel better and for them to understand me, rather than me to understand myself and to make me feel better. And yeah, it was one of those realizations. And then when I had my accident, it just made complete sense. It's like, well, I want to help people. I'm very, like, I love science. I'm fascinated with it. I love quantum physics. I love it. I love the paranormal. So I was like, right, let's just kind of mold it all together, throw it out there and see what happens. And here I am now. But excellent. Yeah, but music can connect you very much so, like, to other people, and it can make you feel better. I went on a complete ramp, like, yapper then. I apologize.
No, it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. So yeah, I wanted Cowabungo's comment. I took down, want to get back up, but she said volunteering gives a lot, and I actually think that it's work that you really, really love whilst you are volunteering. So is there anything in? I mean, I know from personal sort of views and stuff like that, and it's also as well, it's getting people out. And I know often retired people often then go and volunteer doing something straight away. That's why, like, National Trust and English Heritage get so many volunteers, I think, because you know, they want to get out and actually do something. So I mean, we are sociable beings. So you know, what does that sort of do? That kind of volunteering for people and that.
So I think for personally, if I didn't volunteer before I had my accident, I wouldn't have known that I wanted to be a teacher of some kind. And I wouldn't have met one of my best friends, Nettie. I wouldn't have met them. So that kind of really, for me, gave me a social life and an aspiration. And like being a mother of three, it kind of gave me that independence. Like, yeah, and I couldn't be, I wasn't dependable enough to work a full job because of the kids. So I was in this catch-22, like, I want to go and do something, but I don't know what I want to do, but I can't do it every day. So that was really difficult, but it, for me, made me feel like I was contributing and that I mattered and that I was able to do something. And I know with like a few others that I've met and other people who I've spoken to, can't go into too much detail there, but sure, it does give you that sort of self-worth. And like, even if I know a couple who are retired, but they do volunteer a lot, and or they've gone, then a couple have gone back to work because they just felt like they still had enough to give, and they didn't feel like they were ready just to give up. And I think volunteering, especially in something like a place that's beautiful or somewhere, but the thing is, if you get to a point where you're volunteering and it's not fulfilling you, or you're being taken advantage of or called upon at all times, you've got to leave it. And like that's something for myself that I've got myself into, where I always go guns blazing into pretty much everything, and I give it my all, and I'll do anything for anybody. But sometimes you have to take that step back and go, that's not doing me any help, that's not doing me any favors. I like this, whoever I'm volunteering for, they can't expect me to put my life completely down and then struggle to do your own job or to do your housework, like silly little things like collect your mail or read a text message because you're too busy volunteering. So you still have to have that balance. But I could see where volunteering does get you back into stuff that you want to do and give you that purpose. So, and that's from personal experience, really. I don't know. What about yourself, Paul?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been in situations which not I won't say where it is now because I don't want it to get around, but I have been particularly somewhere where I was volunteering, and it should be sort of fun, and I've also been volunteering in other places as well. So this one particular place I volunteered, it was like it was almost like an unpaid job. But I did volunteer in the Guildhall before I started working there, and it was different, the volunteering, because it would be that you would volunteer, you would tear tickets, and you could watch the gig, which you wouldn't do if you were working. And they would, at the end of it, not when you were sort of volunteer, but at the end when it was all done, they would get you a drink afterwards, and then afterwards you'd help with the tidying up. So there has to be, if you do volunteering, there has to be that you are volunteering, you get treated slightly differently, but with the same amount of respect. But I think that it's if you kind of feel pressurized to volunteer to something and you're not feeling that joy, that's when to give it up. If you're getting joy every day and feeling excited to get in for that volunteering, then that's good.
Yeah, yeah. I do think, and I think sometimes, because I don't know if you've been in the same position, Paul, where you get taken advantage of and you don't realize that you're doing all this work for someone, because it kind of starts off very slowly and then it gets more and more and more, and until you're in a full-time job but not getting paid. And then
Yeah.
you're putting yourself, like if you're something like a physical ailment or mental ailment, that's not going to do you any help at all. So yeah, like you've just got to find that balance, and it sounds awful, you kind of have to sometimes put yourself through that to kind of come out the other end and go, hang on a minute, that's not right for me, and then come back. Like I dabble in everything like that. That's my personality. I'm always very thirsty for knowledge. Like
Yes.
I love learning, and like anything that someone will tell me, I'll get really interested and quite obsessed by it. I do apologise. You might be able to hear my kids and that in the background.
It's your own background. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, so you just got to be very careful that you don't get yourself in that sort of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. There's quite a few comments coming up here. Joe Max says everyone has a song which takes you away from all the stress of life. So yeah, have you looked into actually how music affects the brain waves? I know certainly from a study that I heard, if they were getting people to listen to very sort of fast music, people would drive a lot more recklessly and faster than if it's like slower, more calming things. But has there been anything that you've been sort of taught or looked into where music actually, for enjoyment, actually affects the brain waves?
So I haven't done too much research on this, but there is something that I'm looking in at the moment, which is very similar in some way, where and it's to do with quantum physics. You know about sound waves and everything that's so small, and there is this thing called microtubules in the brain, and basically they're what influence the neurons. But from now, I hope right way round. So if I use quantum physics, if I get this wrong, I'll be shot in the head. But
You
it's
won't, it'll be
from
fine.
these microtubules that change it from a quantum system to go to a what's it called, to a classical system, which is like the synapse and stuff like that. And they do believe, like within the ears, with your vibrations and stuff, because it is so, you can't see it, you can feel it, definitely feel it, and it's similar to the paranormal. But like, they do say like that sort of the vibrations, and because it is so minute and so small, and it's all entangled, and there is this whole thing about quantum physics and the consciousness, and how it's absolutely fascinating. And I could yap your ears off for years and years and years, but like to do with the microtubules and to go from that quantum state into like that classical system of the synapse, and it's like, oh, it's just fascinating to me. But yeah, really, that's about it. I could go off on a tangent, but I'm going to stop myself there. But
No,
it's a little bit like Stroger's cat. Like, if we don't know it's there, how can we say it's alive or dead, or how can we say it is or it isn't? So it's very much like you kind of have to, and I will look into this, because this is something that does interest me, and especially with like EVPs and stuff like that, like, and sound waves, and how it can elicit different responses. So that's something that I'm personally interested with paranormal experience, like investigating, which you know anyway. It's very much me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Must say hello to Jade, who's just joined us now. We have Chris here that says, kind of like ASMR when I only want to listen to marbles jumbling together. I must admit that that is something. It's like Marmite. I don't know what you think of those videos. I know so many people absolutely love them and find them relaxing. To me, it has the opposite effect. It doesn't work for me at all. How do you find them?
What would the
AMSR videos, basically sorts of things. I mean, the ones I really hated, the chewing ones. I mean, they get to me.
Yeah.
But it's sorts of things where like they have somebody with a brush against the microphone. It's going things like, some people find them incredibly relaxing. It doesn't do it. It doesn't do it for me. And you know, it's not saying it's the wrong thing, but for me, it doesn't really do it.
Well, what's quite funny is I find documentaries relaxing, and I will sit there and listen to TED Talks like till my ears bleed, and like or it's either TED Talks, documentaries, or paranormal programs. I'm very boring. It's very much like that's my interest.
It's all good.
But I will go to sleep with, I have to have noise in the background, because else I end up going down like the rabbit hole in my brain and just go off on a tangent, and you'll never find me again, sort of thing. But yeah. Oh, with a train. Oh, I thought it said train. But rain. Yeah. Rain's very relaxing.
I can't see. I do like the sound of, let's get this one up.
Where is it too? Yeah.
I can't sleep without the rain sound playing. I like the sound of waves. I must admit, I like the sound of hearing like sort of waves and that. That I find quite relaxing. I must admit, I'm kind of like a silent room person. Although I did need some noise for a certain point. But I kind of
like during the day, I absolutely love sitting in silence with nobody. But then I have 3 kids, so it's the only time I get silence. But I do love just sitting there and no noise, no nothing. It's one of my favorite things. But yeah, like when I go to sleep, I have to have noise, because I go too far into my head, and then I'll work myself up, and then I'll get up in the middle of the night, start moving candle holders from one end to the other, which I have done on multiple occasions. Or I'll get up and just start writing, like doing paper research, and I've done that more recently. Because obviously at the moment, like one of the papers I'm writing, I'm very, very interested in it because it's literally all my favorite things in one place. It's quantum physics, and it's the paranormal, and it's about spirituality and wellness, and it's just everything rolled into one. So I'm very, very a happy bunny at the moment. So I doubt anybody's going to see me for a year.
Right. Well,
before I just bury myself again. Although I will be doing more paranormal investigating this year.
Well, that's good.
Very looking forward to that. Yeah,
that's really good. No. I interrupted you. I apologise. That's really good because again, it's doing what you absolutely love, and I just kind of encourage that. I mean, if we just did stuff we loved all the time, wouldn't that be wonderful, actually? But you know, we do have to kind of work, we do have to do certain things. But I think that it's important you make sure you have that part of the wheel that is down to the things that you love, because it's a good sort of stress release and that. These Wheel of Lives are an hour sessions that I do when I do the Chit Chat Tuesdays. They're 90 minutes, but each one's been an hour, so I'm going to sort of keep to the hour. But will you carry on chatting after we finish this live? To me, you happy to do that for a little bit? Yeah,
of course. Thank you everyone for joining in. Like I do apologise. I've been quite focused in talking, and I haven't really read your messages. But if there's anything I see, I'll.
That's fine. I've been pulling them up.
Yeah, feel free to question me with like random questions. Totally up for that. Anything that's thought-provoking or anything you think is a bit weird and wonderful, just message me with it. Like anyone, fine by me.
So you're mostly active on Instagram.
Yeah.
Is that a public one or is that a private one?
Yeah.
How have you got it set?
So on Instagram, I've got two Instagram accounts. One's for Paranormal, which is all to do with the paranormal stuff, and Nettie, I think, is on here at the moment. Is stuff like where we've been on investigations or some like experiments or just random posts to do with the paranormal. It's very much predominantly the paranormal there. And then you've got my Mama Peffs, which is me personally, which way I talk about more about my family and about university and things I'm doing, and like, because I find that a lot easier, because if I'm reading stuff, for instance, like on Facebook or Twitter, I sometimes get the wrong end of the stick of what's being said online, which hence why I did that whole thing with like social media for my dissertation, because sometimes I get confused. And it, in a way, if I've got an image, the image speaks to me and I can see it clearly, and it's one thing but it says so much and it makes me understand. It's very much similar to like doing readings or like tarot readings and runes and stuff like that. It's in one thing and I can understand that rather than dancing around it. It makes more sense to me. But yeah, find me on Instagram, Mama Pess or Paranormal. I do have Facebook, but I don't have it on my phone. I don't have Messenger on my phone. So if I don't message you straight away, like I will eventually, as Paul will know, like, and even Nettie, she's one of my best friends, and it'll be months sometimes before I've even, or she'll like turn up on my doorstep before, and I'm like, oh, you messaged me. She's like, yeah, that's like a month ago, Cal. So I'm absolutely horrendous with stuff like that, but I am on there as Mama Peffs or Kelly Peffers or Paranormals. There is a group on there called Paranormal, and then same with Instagram. There's just the Mama Peffs. No, not Instagram. Twitter. So I am on all of them. Just and YouTube. That's Mama Peffs, I think, or Paranormals. It's you can find me.
Make sure I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel as well. So we've got Joe that says here, thank you Paul and Kelly for the live, been interesting. Thank you everyone in chat for the conversation. I'm going to get a few.
Thank you.
I'm going to get a few more up here. So Jade says, because you have got your partner in the background and children, did somebody whistle in the background or either
Right.
of you?
Interesting thing about my house, we're coming up towards Halloween, and my house always gets more active as Halloween comes up. There seems to be some kind of anniversary or something, and whistling is something that has happened quite frequently here. But my kids are still awake, and my other half is still here, so it could be them. But it is something when I'm by myself that has happened in my property. I don't know if anyone knows, but I was on last season's Help My House is Haunted. That's this house that I'm in at the moment. Yeah, that's my house. Yeah, go check it out. It's very good. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
We still get activity, but it's nowhere near where it was. And I don't think I'd be living here if it was like it was. So yeah,
that's good.
She says with the spirit board behind it.
You can see the episode on Discovery Plus, and also it gets shown on Really every now and then, because it's been shown Really, but it does come back on at times as well. Let's see here. Love these Real Talks. Let's see what else there is just before we go.
I just read Luby Lou, she's awful at messaging.
Thanks, Paul and Kelly. Honestly, she's a wonderful, awful message from me, but heart of gold. Oh, I found her all right. Let's see what. If you like. Let's have a look at this. If you like. Yeah, do say.
There's a male that done that. Yes. I'll just say yes to that. And
okay.
The most active place now is up in the lofts where I am at the moment. And Nettie, who is on at the moment, she's been to this house, and there is definitely a male up here. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because that's something that I've been picking up. But obviously, we're not talking about that at the moment.
but yeah, we'll have to get you on chit chat. Joe says, if you like Real Talks, Chris, go to YouTube. You can put in TED Talk. They are brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I really like them. And we've read Jade's message about the male. Series 3, Episode 9, Ashes to Ashes.
That's my episode.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, so do check it out. It's really, really good. Really, really great. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This is the last Wheel of Life, and I do apologise for the long period of time since the very last Wheel of Life that's happened, but I'll be thinking of some new and interesting interviews soon. Thank you so much, Kelly. Is there anything you want to say before we go, or are you happy?
You can hear the dog. Well, thank you ever so much for you all joining in and messaging, and apologies for not messaging back. I've been very engaged in talking, as always, Paul. But yeah, like, see me on Investigation, come say hello. Like, see me at university, come say hello. Like, yeah. Unless I'm looking down at the floor and trying, going, oh my God, don't know me. Like, yeah.
Well, you've always been friendly and brilliant anyway when I've been around you.
I do want to apologise. I don't know if anyone can see. My eyes are massive. If I do that, like my pupils, I've not had a session or anything. I had my eyes tested today. So
wow.
New peepers. But my pupils are massive, and they look. I was kind of dreading walking through Wales with these massive pupils. So yes, please don't think I'm doing any drugs or anything like that. So just something random.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You know, I didn't even notice, so it's fine.
Good.
But yeah, well done for actually being able to read these things anyway, because I know it makes, particularly to begin with, your eyes quite blurred and everything. But it does look weird to begin with, doesn't it?
Just a little bit. Like, I think now I've mentioned it, you can probably see it. Like,
yeah. No, you're fine.
I've had sunglasses on all day. And my kids come home like, Mum, you look really cool. And I'm not supposed to be. I just can't see. We'll just say that I was, being cool. But there you go. Yeah, sorry, I'm babbling on, but thank you, everyone. And thanks, Paul, for having me.
Excellent.
Anytime, lovely.
No worries to Jade. Yeah, and thanks for jumping on, and thank you, Chris, as well. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody who's
Thank
been
you.
in. See you soon in another video.